from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up today on Ag Day, mega storm Harvey. Could it add insult to injury to harvest outside of Texas? Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue responds to Texas crisis.
But we got to rebuild and restore. Texans are proud people. They're already leaning forward and with hope in doing that.
In agribusiness, Bob Utterback talks bears, bulls, and swans.
You know, the grains are into a fragile state here.
Will Harvey impact the Texas beef cattle herd? And why cutting high doses of vitamins out of your diet may be a good idea.
AgDay, presented by the Chevy Silverado. High-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Good morning, I'm Betsy Gibbon. Clinton is on assignment at Farm Progress Show in Decatur, Illinois. We'll check in with him in a few minutes. While the show focuses on the unveiling of new equipment and technology, many of those in attendance are also still focused on the natural disaster that continues to unfold in the Gulf region. And for show attendees from the southern Corn Belt, they wonder if they could feel lingering effects of the storm. Harvey made landfall for a second time yesterday and continues to dump heavy rain in parts of eastern Texas and western Louisiana. In the coming days, it will move north and grow weaker, which raises the question, could the storm impact the Corn Belt?
Some farmers all over the Corn Belt will tell you the Midwest crop is behind.
We didn't have real hot temperatures. We haven't had very many 90-degree days here. I think I just saw we've only had like 3 or 4 since this summer, and the nights haven't been as hot either as they had been the last few years.
That means heat and dry conditions are needed around the belt. The next couple of weeks are crucial.
Our crop is behind because of the cool weather. We're probably 2 weeks behind.
And certainly the first half of August has been incredibly cool, with temperatures running some 4 to 8 degrees below average during the first half of August. And even though it looks like we'll be warming up a little bit and see more closer to average temperatures for the remainder of the month, I don't think we'll see any significant stress on filling corn and soybeans. So as we move through the remainder of the growing season into harvest, I don't think temperatures are going to be much of an issue.
AgDay meteorologist Mike Hoffman believes the weather in the Corn Belt will average out close to normal over the next 2 weeks. But the eastern Corn Belt could potentially be the area to see more shots of cooler conditions.
Unfortunately, I think we're going to see shots of really chilly air. Now, not enough to cause a frost or freeze yet, but so there will be some heat as the ridge builds east, but then a trough digs in and brings back some more cool weather. So that's not going to really help the crop on those cool days, but you will get some warm days.
Midwest farmers worry Hurricane Harvey could change the models, bringing up excess rain and cooler temperatures they don't need.
Harvey's not going to pull cool air into the eastern Corn Belt or anything, but if Harvey does bring 2 or 3 inches of rain into parts of Indiana and Ohio, as is possible, especially southern areas, that will cause the temperatures to be cooler than they would have normally. And so that could cool things down just because of that extra rain.
And I think right now the best case scenario would be for a lot of heat units between now and the end of September or even into October to get the corn matured.
The hope rain does not drop on a crop, which has a long way to go.
The impact of Hurricane Harvey on the Texas cotton crop is still being assessed. Despite efforts to get the crop out of the field before the storm made landfall, an estimated 400,000 bales worth of cotton is still on the stock in counties affected by the storm. An economist from Texas A&M AgriLife Extension doubts that loss would be enough to cause a price rally in cotton.
Texas was projected to have a crop of 8.8 million, and the United States 20.5 million bales, and the world crop is obviously a lot larger. So just strictly by the numbers, if you whack off 400,000 bales off of the projected U.S. supply, that's really not enough to move the futures market, really a penny. It's not going to make that much difference to the base price, the futures price.
Robinson says producers will see more of a run-up in cash prices and basis the growers receive because that's more influenced by quality and grade. Oil and gas prices are expected to spike over the next week as about 10 refineries representing more than 15% of the nation's refining capacity are shut down in the wake of Hurricane Harvey. According to AAA, nearly 3 billion barrels of the 18 billion U.S. daily refining capacity has been knocked out. Their analysts say if electrical power is out for a long stretch of time, like 2 or 3 weeks, we could definitely see price spikes throughout the southeast, but possibly as far north as New York.
You'll see retailers engage in what they call inventory protection, where they imagine that their next deliveries of product are going to be that much more expensive. So they jack up the price immediately on product that's already bought and paid for and in the ground in their tanks at their retail stations. We're probably going to see that because of real and perhaps imagined supply problems.
AAA says the U.S. is producing double the crude oil that it was just 5 years ago. So even if there is a price spike at the pump, it should be temporary since there is a big cushion of crude oil. The Farm Progress Show is now underway in Decatur, Illinois. Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue was there Wednesday, but he's also monitoring developments in Texas. Clinton Griffiths joins us from the showgrounds. Clinton?
Hey there, Betsy. Yes, we are at the Farm Progress Show here in Decatur, Illinois, where weather is top of mind as growers push to finish out the 2017 growing season. But it's not the only thing on people's minds today. The House Ag Committee also holding a listening session here on Wednesday with about 200 to 250 ag groups and industry representatives as they talked to these legislators and told them what they'd like to see in the next farm bill. Also on hand, the USDA's Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue, getting a tour of the grounds, talking with farmers, really experiencing here this Farm Progress Show while still thinking about the big job he has back in Washington and the folks in Texas.
You know, the federal government is going to step up and just as the president intended to do with infrastructure across the country and rural infrastructure in particular, that we're going to be leading out. But we've got to rebuild and restore. Texans are proud people. They're already leaning forward and with hope in doing that. And that's what's great about America. Americans are optimistic. You can knock them down, but they don't stay down. And I think you're going to see that in spades in Texas as you see the resiliency of the American people in Texas.
We were able to talk with some of these Washington folks a little more in depth. We'll have that tomorrow from the Farm Progress Show. Otherwise, the weather's been pretty good here in Progress City, Illinois. I'm Clinton Griffiths. Back to you, Betsy.
Mike Hoffman is joining us now with a look at crop comments. Mike?
Good morning to you, Betsy. Let's start off in southeastern Nebraska. Nick Wilhelm says his 118-day corn looks great this year. Now USDA says 63% of the state's corn crop is rated good to excellent. And a viewer in Dallas County, Iowa, writing on agweb.com, most of the pods on the soybeans have only 2 beans in them, and many are flat. Weed pressure is tremendous. USDA says 60% of the state's soybeans are rated good to excellent, though. And taking a look at the latest root zone moisture, you can definitely tell where Hurricane Harvey hit. Look at all the blue in Texas and Louisiana. We'll take a closer look at this map coming up in Maine weather. But first, here are some hometown temps.
This is Machinery Pete, inviting you to check out my new website, machinerypete.com. Offering farmers tens of thousands of used equipment listings to search, let Machinery Pete help you find and value your next piece of used equipment.
Still to come, Bob the Bear Utterback joins us at Farm Progress Show to look at the markets and politics. How is the mega storm affecting the beef sector in Texas? Our partners at Drovers offer their insight. And men are popping vitamins to improve energy. The new research points to a major health risk. We'll tell you which vitamins and what danger exists.
Join us on the U.S. Farm Report Facebook page, Friday, September 8th at 10 a.m. Central Time for Foliar Health Focus. We'll have experts live in the field discussing proactive disease control strategies that worked this year and ways to boost your yield in 2018.
In analysis, we now return to the Farm Progress Show where Clinton looks at the microeconomics of the markets.
I'm here with Bob Utterback, Utterback Marketing. Bob, let's talk about these markets. You know, we think we know what the crop might be. Of course, we don't know. Weather is one kind of unknown over the next 3 or 4 weeks. Are there any other black swans out there that could really kind of take on this market as we go into the end of 2017 and 2018?
You know, the grains are into a fragile state here. I think we're in the final stage of this bear market blow off. Now, what could. I've been known as a bear, and I don't. You know, times of year I want to be a bear, but we're coming in time periods. Time to put the bear claws away, and time to go for a siesta. But what are some of the black swans that could develop? And I think there's two really big ones.
Okay.
One would be the equity markets. We're in a multi-year bull market based on the premise since the election on capital expansion through infrastructure, regulation, deregulation, and taxes. Now, if Washington is derailed in that respect,
it's been a lot slower than we thought it would be.
And equities takes a hit, I think that'll bleed into the commodities emotionally, especially if it goes to harvest. So that could exaggerate a little the weakness. And the other black swan, which is the one that scares me probably the most because it's so unknown, is NAFTA. I think the political base for Trump is the Midwest, the conservatives, and I think that's the agriculture community. Agriculture, NAFTA has been good for us in the ags. And I think we got a Secretary of Agriculture who's in there fighting for us, which is good. And they're saying, let's don't mess with agriculture, let's just worry about industrial. But I don't know if they can separate the two. But that's going to be the big question is, will China use their grain buying of soybeans as a bargaining chip to put pressure on the administration?
Right.
And that's one of those ones, if it happens at the wrong time of year, could exemplify or exacerbate a downside action. So if we can get past, I think, November, December, then I think it would dilute the effect. But if it happens in the next 30, 45 days, that could have a really exaggeration to the downside.
Lots of things to watch as we get toward the end of the year. Bob, thanks for being here. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a minute.
To talk with Bob one-on-one, call Utterback Marketing Services, toll free at 800-832-1488.
Welcome back to Ag Day with meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Mike, when we take a look at this map, what stands out to you this week?
Obviously Harvey, number one, all the moisture in eastern Texas and Louisiana. But the other two things are Illinois over into the eastern Ohio Valley. Very dry areas showing up. This has been developing over the past few weeks, but it is getting a little bit stronger in that area. It continues to be wet, though, from the western Great Lakes into parts of the northern plains, even in the drought areas, showing up as wet in the topsoil, the root zone moisture. Even in parts of the Dakotas. So it takes a while to get out of a long-term drought. Well, there's the remnants of Harvey. We also have another tropical storm developing off of Baja, California, not expected to affect any part of the lower 48 over the next several days anyway. But the remnants of Harvey definitely will. Lots of heavy rain. Tropical moisture always ends up worse than the radar even looks. I mean, it just puts it down. Typically, very heavy rainfall expected along the track of this storm, and you can see as we head through tonight, it'll start to track into Tennessee and Kentucky with very heavy rains. High pressure and a cold front building southward. We'll try to keep it as far south as possible. It is a little farther south than yesterday, but as we head through the day tomorrow, starts to head into the mountains of the central Appalachians, which we'll be watching as well. Next cold front has some scattered showers and thunder showers along it by tomorrow afternoon in the northern plains. Taking a look at precipitation estimates over the past 24 hours, you can see hit and miss across the northern portions of the Great Lakes, but it's really the activity down south with Harvey adding in the next 36 to 48 hours. You can see this whole system will continue to track toward the northeast. So as we zoom in on this, you can see it's from northern Louisiana, excuse me, right on up through northern Mississippi. There's a secondary area, that main band coming into parts of Alabama and Georgia will get several inches of rain. This is 6 to 10 inches showing up on our computer model, parts of central Tennessee, and eventually this whole system continues to move northeastward, and you can see it moves up into the Lexington, Kentucky area, and eventually, beyond what our model shows here, it is going to put down some heavy rains in the mountains of Pennsylvania, West Virginia, western Maryland. High temperatures this afternoon on the cool side, 60s, northern Great Lakes into New England. Pretty warm, but not overly warm in the southern portions of the country, especially where it's raining. Lows tonight, 40s and 50s, Great Lakes into the northeast, and kind of more of the same tomorrow. Very comfortable northeast quadrant, a little bit warmer toward the southwest. There's the jet stream. You can see the remnants of Harvey kind of moving in with the main trough to the north end. Look at that trough. We've been showing this for a few days now. Big time cool down next week, northern plains into the northeast. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. First of all, Carlsbad, New Mexico, lots of sunshine, rather warm, high of 87 degrees. Mason City, Iowa, partly sunny, shower or thunderstorm possible, high of 73. And Knoxville, Tennessee, periods of rain. Could be a thunderstorm as well, high of 80.
When Ag Day returns, we continue our look at the impact Harvey is having on the beef sector of Texas. And we'll look at the serious health risk men face if they overdo it with high levels of vitamins. In news from our partners at Drovers, while Hurricane Harvey has produced a major disaster for ranchers and livestock producers in southeast Texas, the storm is not expected to significantly disrupt the nation's beef processing operations. Drovers editor Greg Henderson says there was only one major beef packer in the path of the storm, and it's in Corpus Christi, where it processes 225 head a day. It's been closed since Friday. Henderson says transportation will be the biggest obstacle to the reopening of slaughter operations. But for ranchers, it's a different story. You may have seen this footage on Facebook as a crew pushes 50 head of cattle down the streets of Dayton, Texas, in advance of the storm. The number of Texas counties that were in harm's way holds a substantial portion of the Texas herd.
Farmers and ranchers in the area, however, have suffered substantial losses. 54 counties in Texas have been declared a disaster in the wake of Harvey, and the counties were home to 1.2 million beef cows and a corresponding number of calves.
The Port of Houston remains shut down, and while it is the busiest port on the Gulf for shipping containers, Henderson says it accounts for only about 1% of pork exports and even less of beef export volumes. It's one of the most popular vitamin supplements on the market, but a new study shows it can pose a serious risk in some men. Details next in Ag for Your Health.
Join us on the U.S. Farm Report Facebook page Friday, September 8th at 10 a.m. Central Time for Foliar Health Focus. We'll have experts live in the field discussing proactive disease control strategies that worked this year and ways to boost your yield in 2018. In the country. Brought to you by Kubota. Learn more about Kubota SSV Series skid steers at Kubota.com or demo one at your local Kubota dealer today.
B vitamins are some of the most popular supplements sold in drugstores. Many people buy vitamin B6 and B12 because they're marketed as a way to boost energy levels. But a new study shows that using too much of certain B vitamins for too long can triple to quadruple lung cancer risk among male smokers. Clark Powell has details in this report from the Ohio State Comprehensive Cancer Center.
In a study that followed more than 77,000 people for more than a decade, researchers noticed a troubling trend when it comes to one of the most popular vitamin supplements on the market.
What we found was that men who had used dietary supplements, in particular B6 and also vitamin B12, were at significant increased risk of developing lung cancer.
Surprisingly, there was no risk found in women, but in men, those who took high doses of these B vitamins for up to 10 years had approximately double the risk of developing lung cancer. In men who smoked, the risk was 3 to 4 times greater, depending on which of the 2 B vitamins they were taking. This study looked at both men and women who took high doses for 10 years. A high dose of B6 is considered 20 milligrams, but supplements come in doses of up to 500 milligrams. A high dose of B12 is considered to be 55 micrograms, but B12 supplements come in doses of up to 5,000 micrograms.
So these are super physiological doses that are not necessary for your health.
Theodore Brasky led the study at the Ohio State University Comprehensive Cancer Center, James Cancer Hospital, and Solov Research Institute. He says it's easy to get plenty of B vitamins from diet. Foods like cereals are fortified with them, and some energy drinks have 8,000% of the recommended daily allowance of B12.
I don't think there's a clear scientific backing for a healthful need for these supplements at those doses.
Although there is now evidence of just how much harm long-term mega supplementation with B6 and B12 can do for male smokers. At the Ohio State University Comprehensive Cancer Center, James Cancer Hospital, and Solov Research Institute, this is Clark Powell reporting.
Researchers stress that the risk of lung cancer in the study was tied to the use of high-dose, long-term supplements and not just through a diet or a daily multivitamin. Next, they want to assess the risk, if any, to women. Well, that's all the time we have this morning. We're glad you tuned in. For Clinton and Mike, I'm Betsy Gibbon. We'll see you here tomorrow.
AgDay is powered by Ram Trucks, America's longest-lasting pickups.